And here we are with our 4th Warriors game on this channel, which you gotta wonder, how in the world could these be any different to each other? Well, in some ways they aren't, and in other ways they are. But that's only regarding what I'd call the crossover spin-off Muso titles we've talked about thus far. I still haven't played a single Dynasty Warriors game to this very day, and don't have much interest in doing so. Plus, if you look at all the sequels and side stuff in its library, yeah, that's a lot of content I don't feel like going through right now.
Alright, we're starting to get a little more recent in this marathon. Our first Fire Emblem game on the Nintendo Switch, and also a new 3DS exclusive, you remember those? Where games like Xenoblade Chronicles 3D and maybe 4 other titles had that black box to signify that this was the manlier 3DS game and wouldn't work on those original baby models? Just curious though, did anybody actually pick up the new 3DS version of Fire Emblem Warriors? I mean, for a handheld port it's impressive, except for the ugly and frankly scary as hell character models, but it's kept all of the game's voice acting from the looks of it and doesn't play too badly. It's just, why not simply get the much superior Switch version? I understand that the Switch was only around for several months at that point in 2017 and not everybody could afford them, but come on, look at this. It's like nowadays where Hyrule Warriors Legends is completely useless since we have the definitive edition on Switch. Give 3DS Hyrule Warriors some credit though, the Switch hadn't even been announced just yet, still under the NX name, so playing it on the go at the time sounded pretty cool. Fire Emblem Warriors on new 3DS was pretty much dead on arrival, with the Switch one selling over 41,000 copies during its opening week in Japan, and the new 3DS version selling over 18,000 copies, and even that seems generous, I feel. Speaking of Hyrule Warriors Legends, however, that ended up sparking the idea of Fire Emblem Warriors due to the touchscreen mechanics reminding a lot of Fire Emblem between the two studios that formed Koei Tecmo, Omega Force and Team Ninja. The same team that worked on the original Hyrule Warriors in 2014 also handled Fire Emblem Warriors, with some reinforcement from Intelligent Systems as well, in the hopes to do what Hyrule Warriors did by combining Zelda and Dynasty Warriors, but instead of Zelda we have Fire Emblem characters, worlds and gameplay calling back to its own series, taking around 2 years to make overall. Casts of several different Fire Emblem games would band together to take on the big threats, terrorizing a whole new world. And by several Fire Emblems, that's of course meaning mostly Awakening and Fates characters since they were the most recent and popular. Sprinkle a couple of ones from Shadow Dragon, have Lyn be the only Blazing Blade recruit with no Eliwood, Celica be the only Gaiden recruit with no Alm, that one really doesn't make sense given Gaiden's story, and just pretend the Tellius games never existed. Why the hell not, let's make up 2 new characters alongside them and are only in this game and nowhere else. Eventually, Fire Emblem Warriors did get some DLC packs that contained a few more fighters from their respective titles, which was nice to see other characters like Tharja, Azura, and Minerva getting some love. Azura in particular is perhaps one of my personal favorites in the game, but a lot of the DLC and even base characters are just clones of one another. For example, Marth and Celica have the exact same moveset, as does Ryoma and Owain, and Takumi and Niles. There's a butt ton of characters to choose from in this game too, especially as you unlock more like Anna upon completing one of the game's portraits, which is done by meeting a certain condition during a stage and finding Anna afterwards in her shop that only appears for a limited time, giving you one piece of the puzzle until you collect them all. I'd recommend going for the ones from the first map based on Awakening since the level requirements are so low that you can breeze through them all. It's a shame though that Anna's just a regular archer in this game, which characters like Sakura, Takumi, and Niles already fit the bill. The DLC also contains a bunch more of what are called history maps, which basically hands you loads of random missions to complete based on a certain Fire Emblem adventure. You remember the adventure mode challenges in the original Hyrule Warriors? It's pretty much like that. The DLC challenge maps are mostly just ways to easily grind for more materials needed to upgrade a character, which like in Hyrule Warriors is done as a skill tree where more rare materials will eventually be needed to max out a certain ability or give you more combos to pull off. I really wish all of this stuff was available from the get-go, however. How long will it be before the Switch eShop suffers the same fate as the 3DS store and shuts down, locking us out of all of this bonus content that makes the game feel more complete? Not even the villains are playable, despite seeming pretty possible to do so by moving and acting like a human player would. What gives with that? Still, it's probably preferable to dealing with the game's story because it's just... let's get this over with. Really, I'm not even sure why I'm bothering putting a spoiler bumper at the start of this because there's so little to talk about with the plot of Fire Emblem Warriors, and there is absolutely nothing worth keeping a surprise. So our heroes are these two royal twins of Aetolis named Liana and Rowan, with Liana being the smart and noble one, and Rowan being the hot-headed one whilst carrying the scratchy voice of every anime protagonist in the history of ever.
Our friends, our world's counting on us. We won't let it be destroyed!
In their kingdom's courtyard, they're sparring with their tutor and friend Prince Darius of Gristone, but right away monsters appear from the sky and attack the kingdom, with one of them heading into the queen's room. After slaying some of the beasts, they all reach the queen and save her, but she doesn't last for much longer since debris from the castle comes down and separates the mother from her children. I'd ask where the father is, but I think we know how much this series appreciates them by now. The queen gives Liana and Rowan a shield to take with them, with more debris completely blocking any passageways, presuming that their mother's now dead. Not even 15 minutes in and the parent figure's already gone kaput. That's gotta be a new record. Darius takes the children out of the castle and tells them that the shield needs to be taken to a temple he knows of, and while trying to escape the rest of the monsters, they gain the assistance of Still Totally Marth I Swear. After traveling a bit, they meet with some of the shepherds from Awakening, the Gristone army begin their own invasion for some reason, and not too far into the adventure, we reach the temple. There, a bishop mentions that the shield our party's carrying is the shield of flames that was used to seal the Chaos Dragon Velazark, and with portals allowing foul creatures to reach our world again, there's a likely chance that the Chaos Dragon will come back. We're tasked to use the shield of flames to seal the portals again, and therefore Velazark as well. To awaken the Shield of Flames and activate its powers, it needs all of its Gleamstones, which of course are found within the various heroes from each of the Fire Emblem games. They think the next Gleamstone comes from the not-so-legendary Hero King, who seems to have sided with the Gristone army, but after defeating them they tell us that it was to infiltrate their ranks and gather intel. Yes, they probably could have talked this out instead of engaging in dangerous swordplay, but don't worry, they only do that several more times in this story. Original Marth Do Not Steal does decide to join us at least, though a new recruit to the Gristone army is Valadar, one of the primary antagonists of Awakening. He and a number of other Velazark followers are in the process of some sort of ceremony, which we quickly stop, and not even 2 hours into the plot, we not only already find out that this Marth is actually Lucina, but she even spills the beans about her being from the future and that she's the daughter of Crom, with Owain being the son of Lissa. Wow, we're really in a rush to get through this, aren't we? And oh my god, did they greatly butcher this scene from Awakening. That was one of my favorite moments from that game because of the time Crom and Lucina shared before the big reveal, which made Lucina breaking down into tears seem earned by no longer having to hold back any emotions and all flooding in at once. In this game, they've maybe exchanged a few lines of dialogue before this that doesn't add anything, and in what feels like no time at all, we're supposed to be crying tears of joy and sadness along with Lucina like they had this huge connection. No, you can't just recreate that scene and expect it to work again on its own. There was a lot of build-up around it, but this just feels like a cheap way to capture the hearts of Awakening fans by doing the bare minimum. Oddly enough, they actually spend more time trying to get the Hoshidans and Norians from Fates to work together after spending a ton of time searching for Corrin, allowing Ryoma's and Xander's Gleamstones to be set free and place themselves on the Shield of Flames, which afterwards Liana and Rowan entrust to Darius whilst they head into another battle. This immediately comes to bite them in the ass though when Darius gets kidnapped, meaning the enemy has the shield in their possession as well. And with the Shadow Dragon recruits coming right the hell out of nowhere to lend their help, the party now need to search and rescue Darius. Tiki suggests that we go somewhere called the World Tree where the Divine Dragon used to rest long ago after a fatal duel with a Dark Dragon, with her fangs supposedly still being there containing ultimate power. Suddenly Garneth appears, who's also looking to revive Velazark and stop our heroes, but he quickly retreats after defeating him, and the Dragon Fangs we were told about are actually sacred weapons that the Royal Twins can use for the battle to save Darius and retrieve the shield. As expected, the weapons do help a great deal and free Darius from his prison as well as relocate the Shield of Flames, which Marth also places his Gleamstone onto to complete the Infinity Gauntlet. Darius seems to have turned evil though and says that he aims to awaken Velazark himself and once again takes the shield to do so, but the twins believe that Darius wouldn't be doing this without a good reason, so we chase after him. He reunites with his father, the King of Gristone, as they both want to acquire the dragon's power, and Darius even tells the twins that their mother is still alive, but will soon be used as a sacrifice for Velazark. Darius and the king are beaten after facing them, though it looks like it was really Velazark possessing Darius and making him betray everyone, but he ends up falling down a pit anyway, never to be seen again, and we get to see Liana's and Rowan's mother on top of this.
The first time a parent actually gets to live in one of these damn games and it had to be in this one. Kinda sucks knowing that, doesn't it?
With Darius being royalty, however, and Velazark needing the blood of one to be resurrected, That counted, and he's back to destroy everything. He's kind of a little bitch though once we get to fight him at the end. Yeah, he does have a crap ton of health, but he's not nearly as menacing as the game thinks he is. It doesn't help that it looks like they've severely shrunken him down compared to the cutscenes, so it looks like I'm battling the mini-me version of Vela's arc. No matter, the Chaos Dragon is slain and the rest of the heroes need to return to their own worlds, or rather a handful of the heroes return. Where'd everybody else go? That roster was way bigger earlier, and they can all reflect on what the hell they just went through while the twins become coronated. Christ on a stick, that was terrible. Thank God Koei Tecmo gets so much better at writing stories for these crossovers after this game, because goddamn, this one was laughably goofy for the wrong reasons. A few of the callbacks and references to various Fire Emblems are kinda neat, such as Garnet splitting into clones again like in Shadow Dragon, but those cannot save some of the most cringeworthy dialogue and story beats I have seen in Fire Emblem yet. The power of friendship saving all, relationships that bloom miraculously quickly, villains somehow more one note than in their source material, and of course there's another godforsaken dragon involved, with some of the worst possible reasons for actually doing a few of these missions just for more gameplay. Frederick wants to test our strength, we must fight! Past villains only showing up for one level, fight! A Hoshiden and or Norian sibling of Corrin believes members of their family are being held hostage by us, fight! That one in particular, this game absolutely loves reusing. They do this twice in a row for each family. That's 4 times you gotta go through this exact same scenario, and it gets tiring so quickly. Look at what Camilla says after we fought her, and now Leo assumes she and Elise are being kidnapped.
Relax, Elise. I'm not going to hurt our dear brother. But he has carelessly jumped to quite a rash conclusion.
Bitch, you just did the exact same thing, literally 1 mission prior. Did the writers get amnesia while working on this game? And every time, the characters act like dumbasses and don't even bother trying to communicate with the others to calm them down and explain the situation. They just say that they're too caught up in saving their loved ones that they won't listen. Well, you don't know that because you barely even attempted. It's taken me longer to complain about this than it did for you to only give up and decide that taking away the lives of good soldiers is clearly the better solution. I guess I should be thankful this campaign only lasts around 10 hours instead of Fire Emblem's usual 20 to 30, but man, the only thing I kept saying throughout a lot of this was, what are you doing? In its defense, it is fun to play, and truth be told, it's pretty awesome seeing all of these recognizable heroes take on evil together, even if you don't get all of them right away, though by recruiting the Awakening cast first, the game sorta blows its load early since that's arguably the most popular Fire Emblem title to date. I wasn't nearly as excited to be acquiring the Fates or the Shadow Dragon team. Tiki especially, they really made her annoying in this. And you don't even get Lyn or Celica in this mode, they have to be unlocked via side content. The voice acting's still pretty good at least, gathering some of the same actors from previous games and adding some new ones to characters that didn't have voices like Yuri Lowenthal as Marth and Wendy Lee as Lyn. They didn't get Laura Bailey back to voice Lucina, sadly. She was likely far too busy at this point in her career, especially with The Last of Us Part 2, but her replacement does a spectacular job at imitating her, you almost can't tell the difference. While the newer characters unique to this game are horribly generic, their voice acting's not bad either. Except for Rowan, I didn't really care for him that much. I mean, come on, Darius is voiced by Xander goddamn Mobus, who I'm pretty sure is credited that in his IMDb page. Anything that man touches turns to gold. Okay, most of the time. He's sex for the ears is all I'm saying. Get used to the acting too, because you're gonna be hearing it a lot in this game, especially the history maps where you're gonna hear the same recycled dialogue over and over again. Yep, it's another one of those good times. Seriously, you couldn't just record a couple more lines when buying upgrades?
Is this okay? Woohoo! Is this okay? Woohoo!
Sometimes it can be a little funny with how awkward the extras deliveries are, but if you're not a player who's able to drown these sorts of things out, you're gonna absolutely hate Fire Emblem Warriors just for this alone. That is, if you enjoy this sort of gameplay to begin with. It's about what you come to expect from a Muso title at this point, with a few things akin to Fire Emblem to make it stand out from others. It's funny, I recently did my first playthrough of 3 Hopes, the pseudo-sequel to Warriors, and it's strange going back to this game to see just how much more basic in design it is compared to 3 Hopes, but that's not a bad thing. I would say Warriors is a bit faster paced than 3 Hopes and more friendly to those playing on handheld during bus rides and such, since missions can mostly take 15 to 30 minutes to do, and that's just the story important stuff. A lot of the history maps don't even last that long, maybe 5 to 10 minutes at most, particularly if you're playing at higher levels after finishing the story mode, maybe a little too powerful in the arena missions and you're just waiting for dialogue to finish popping up. These were the worst ones in the game for me with just how slow they are. It helps that there's not much preparation needed, unlike Three Hopes, which is more about hanging with your friends and upgrading your base. In this one, you just pick a mission, optimize your inventory, and boom, you're there. But you are able to improve a character's abilities if you have the materials and gold to spare. Like other Warriors games, materials are dropped by some of the stronger baddies you come across, which also gives you affinity points between any paired units, harkening back to the post-Awakening era of Fire Emblem games, complete with support conversations if 2 specific characters gain an A rank. The support conversations are all pretty much the same though. Someone feels insecure about themselves and need cheering up by the other character, saying that they're strong, /brave, /worthy, /kind, all of the above. From the ones I've seen, Marth had the most amount of these moments. There's just no variation whatsoever, and very rarely the conversations become something different, like Lynn and Robin talking about tacticians and going all meta on us for a brief moment.
I'd like to meet this tactician someday if I can. I'd love to compare theories on war and tactics and devise new strategies.
I'd be glad to introduce you, but I must warn you, they can be a bit aloof. I'm not even sure they would carry on a conversation with you.
Oh, the strong but silent type. But you're on good terms, right?
Well, sort of. They're always very quiet, even on the battlefield. Not everyone needs to talk to issue orders.
I'm sorry, what? How does one order the troops without words?
Good question. I can somehow always tell. It's like there's an invisible arrow.
See, that's the sort of tongue-in-cheek humor I think these cutscenes needed if this game was going to add a bunch of winks and nods to many different Fire Emblem titles. I'll give them some credit though, Corrin's actually got some personality this time, but maybe the voice acting did a lot of the heavy lifting there. I like the pair-up system altogether, however. They each have their own special attacks they can fill up, and can easily combine the two for some devastating power that's also great for boss fights. There's a couple of other meters too to either defend you for one hit whilst full, similar to the Fates games, or send out your partner to stagger their opponents and expose their returning weakness gauges, which also comes up after the enemy finishes a combo. Once again, chipping away the meter lets you perform a high damaging attack afterwards, and in a cool way to utilize Fire Emblem's weapons triangle system, you can drain the meter faster if you're using the right weapon against the enemy, or just use a single special attack to empty all of it in one fell swoop. Heavy attacks once again change depending on how many times you press the light attack button prior, and we also have the new Awakening gauge that ups the unit's attack power, gives you the advantage no matter the weapon type, and the more enemies you kill while in this state, the more bonuses you earn before your Awakening reaches its climax with one final special attack. Planning a strategy before and during the mission is another added bonus compared to Hyrule Warriors, complete with allies that are actually capable this time, for the most part. For God's sake, Owain, we're in a war here! You're pretty much invincible a lot of the time, and I barely ever got hurt, at least not majorly so. But this game does allow you to turn on permadeath if you want to up the stakes a little, though reviving them requires way too much golden materials for my liking, so I choose to leave permadeath off in this case and save the epic grinding. Although no matter how much of that you do, some materials are locked to specific characters that can only be obtained by ranking up supports. And that's how you also get a lot of the different skills you can attach similar to Fire Emblem games. The two you absolutely positively want though are Paragon, which you get from Marth, and Astra, which you get from Ryoma. You have to purchase the skill for them first in order to do so for everyone else, but Paragon grants that unit more experience by killing enemies, while Astra increases their speed and makes you a wicked fast demon from hell as your enemies watch their friends fly in the air from a distance. It gets ridiculous with how fast you can get in this game. Look at Lynn here, it's like she's hyped up on coke and caffeine at the same time. But this does make the game a lot more fun for me this way. It's great for getting some of the characters more powerful weapons too. You have to get a scroll of their default weapon in one of the history maps, then you gotta buy the Passage of Right to upgrade it, and then you have to kill a mere 10,000 enemies before you finally power the thing up. It's a fair bit of work, but it is worth it in the end. Increasing levels does help to some degree, but in this game it's all about how strong your arsenal is. I wouldn't have learned about all of this nitty-gritty stuff without some assistance from my brother Jude at Atama Workshop. He's way more into this game than I am. This is what he had to say about it.
Hey folks, Jude here. As I'm a massive fan of this game, clocking in at over 200 hours played, Josh has asked me to give some of my thoughts as to why I like this game so much. Personally, I find this game to be a very satisfying experience. The gameplay, while flawed at times, is the most satisfying I've seen in any Warriors game to date. Seeing a horde of enemies fly through the air as I plow through them with some of my favorite Fire Emblem characters that I've nursed from a weak level 1 to a powerful level 150 is an incredible feeling. And it's the kind of game you can switch your brain off for. I personally love to jump in here and there to do a couple of missions despite having finished them with an S rank, because I simply enjoy turning my brain off and leveling up any characters I'm behind on. And despite them being reduced to their most basic character traits, seeing all the characters together and interacting with each other is a very nice touch. I'm particularly fond of an interaction between Robin and Lyn, two characters who should have nothing in common, but they just have this nice chat about tactics, and Lyn saying how much she admires her tactician. It's oddly charming, which is odd to see from something that might seem like a quick cash grab of a game. And finally, I think it's worth mentioning the badge system, the means by which you upgrade your characters. Across all the Warriors games I've played, I've found this to be the best upgrade system of them all. It's simple, it looks good, it's clear on what you need to get, and the character badges are a wonderful touch. The character badges allow one character to share their special attribute with any of the others, such as Marth's increased XP, Anna's increased money, or the best one in the whole damn game that every character absolutely needs to have on, Ryoma's attack speed boost. Ryoma's ability alone makes the system worth it, as it can turn a slow, maybe a bit dull character into a fast powerhouse, decimating enemies in mere seconds. So if you want a game you can switch your brain off for, is more solid than it has any right to be, and you love Fire Emblem, check out Fire Emblem Warriors. Just don't ask me about the stupid ass armor breaking system, the less said about that, the better.
Thanks, Jude. Hope to see you make another video at some point, and I'll let you know if I need you to take over for me during a challenging stream. Have a look at this for context. So I think Fire Emblem Warriors, while not the deepest of action games, though that's pretty standard for Muso titles, isn't it, is a nice way to let off some steam and have a fun romp with your favorite Fire Emblem characters, even if it means I can't look at the story with a straight face.
I would say this is definitely way better than something like Hyrule Warriors in terms of gameplay, which, going back to it, it's perhaps a bit too basic in comparison nowadays, and the combat does get rather old after some time. Granted, you are still doing the same thing over and over again in Fire Emblem Warriors, and I felt like I've had my fill after 40 plus hours of playing so far. But with the addition of a support system, skills to level the playing field, and pairing with other characters, I think there's at least a little bit more substance to it than what came before. It additionally helps that the side content is not nearly as overwhelming as in the original Hyrule Warriors, which had way too many similar missions all in a single map. Fire Emblem Warriors thankfully tones this down to a great degree and makes it easier to digest. If you can get this game for cheap, I'd say it's maybe worth having a look at, but again, that's only if you're into this sort of gameplay to start with. If you're going into this game expecting more Fire Emblem than Dynasty Warriors, you're gonna be sorely disappointed. Go in with an open mindset and see what you think.
Well, we do still have a couple of games left before we reach the end of this retrospective, not including the upcoming Fire Emblem Engage, though honestly, I'm getting pretty burnt out with Fire Emblem right now, so I think I'm gonna make this next game my last one for a while. At the very least, we're potentially going out with a bang, because our final Fire Emblem game to talk about for the time being will be Three Houses for the Switch. This is gonna be one hell of a project. Until then, we'll be briefly returning to Platinum Games with a long-anticipated Bayonetta 3. Yes, we'll be addressing the controversy as well. Hope to see you then. Thanks everyone for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and take care of yourselves. Side stuff and sequels in its series. No, damn it, I was doing so well. That's a nice way to let off some steam and. So I think Fire Emblem Warriors, while not the at the very least, we could pretend. A big thanks to Ms. Wisterian as well for my new anime portrait. It looks great. I thought I'd zhuzh it up a bit this time with color and not just go back to my usual black and white style I've done 3 times before. Hope you guys like it anyway, and hopefully you will see it more often in thumbnails. Take care, everybody.